Hello everyone, welcome back to my writing space. I've got some more tips, tricks, and tropes for you. Today we'll be talking about genres. I'm certain that if you have written or are currently writing a book, or just have one in your brain, that someone has asked you, what is your book about? It's a valid question, you need to sell your book, but it can be hard to sum it up in 25 words or less on the spot. But an easy way to get a vibe, setting, or plot across is through your genre. Genre is pretty straightforward. First, you have the main categories, fiction and nonfiction. Mainly is your story either about real stuff or about fake stuff. And each of these main genres has a lot of subgenres. A nonfiction book can be a research report, study, memoir, biography, encyclopedia, etc. Then, in fiction, you get your sci-fi fantasy, historical fiction, horror, mystery, romance, yada yada. Your genre is one of, if not the most important selling point to an agent, publisher, or potential reader. Each person has their own flavor of genre. I've submitted to people and agents who prefer mythological retellings and fantasy, but don't like pure fantasy, and others that will only read romance inquiries and nothing else. A lot of authors tend to stick to a single genre, or maybe two, that they specialize in. It's totally okay, though, to write other genres, too. Some people just have certain skill set or style of storytelling that their current market is so firmly established in that it doesn't make sense to write anything else. But I'm not here today to tell you what to or not to write. This is Genres 101, where we go over a brief explanation of each genre and what is expected of them, including word count. We are just going to focus on the fictional genres today. If you'd like a future video for non-fiction genres, let me know in the comments below. Now, let's get into it. We're going to be going through these pretty fast because there's a lot. First up, we are hitting contemporary fiction. Contemporary fiction is basically the vanilla flavor of genres. Just tell a normal, somewhat modernish story about something that could happen in real life, but ultimately is a fictional story. Word count ranges from about 70,000 to 100,000 words. Examples of fictional stories are Kite Runner, A Man Called Ove, and Legally Blonde. A similar genre to contemporary is literary fiction, which is basically the same but told in a moralistic way to have undertones meant to be hyperanalyzed to give second meaning or teach a larger message. These are the books that are usually also referred to as the classics, the ones that your high school teacher had to shove down your throat. And they're usually taught in an academic setting that's usually people's first introduction to them. So you have A Tale of Two Cities, Great Expectations, etc. These are written in a more professional and linguistic way and run from 80,000 to 100,000 words. Historical fiction is a fun genre because it can fluctuate in a sense. Classics are considered historical now, but most of them were contemporary when written. Something written 20 years ago is still contemporary. And if you write a story that is set 20 years ago, it is contemporary because it's recent enough for your audience to have lived it. However, if you set your story 40 years ago, it's historical. These kinds of novels tend to take a lot more research depending on what kind of historical fiction it is. There's essential to the story kind of historical fiction like The Book Thief, Gone with the Wind, where historical events directly affect the characters and have an impact on the plot overall. Then there's Bridgerton. They've got the time period, but nothing else is super interested or invested in the time period. It's mainly costumes and societal expectations, but it's not really historically accurate, which is fine. Historical fiction can run a bit longer, ranging from 80,000 to 120,000 words. Alright, it's everyone's favorite. There's lots of different kinds of romance, but overall it's a love story. So if you're writing a romance, there's gonna be some kind of kiss involved, I don't know. Romance is fun because it can also be used as a subgenre of any other genre pretty easily. Take this character, they like each other. And now, kiss! And that's romance, not to be confused with romanticism. Different things. Examples of romance are the ACOTAR series, Icebreaker, The Summer I Turned Pretty. These are shorter novels ranging from about 50,000 to 90,000 words. Mystery thriller, the story of intrepid detectives, hidden murders, strange clues, creeps, shadowy figures, and twisted webs. There's something unknown, and you gotta figure it out. It's basically the plot. You got Agatha Christie and Hercule Poirot, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and Sherlock, and then also more recent titles by Frida McFadden, like The Housemaid is Watching. Word count, I would say, is about 80,000 to 100,000 words. Take that with a grain of salt, because the shorter you write your story, the easier it is to publish it. Boo! Did I get you? Nah. Horror is scary stuff. High stakes most of the time, spooky things that go bump in the night. Anything by Stephen King or Dean Koontz. Usually there's monsters or paranormal stuff involved. Sinners is a horror movie that just came out and checks the vampire box of horror. Of course, you don't need vampires to be horror, because then Twilight would be classified as horror. And I don't want to insult any of the monstrosities in the horror genre by that insinuation. Horror is usually between 80k and 100k. Once again, play it by ear. With higher stakes involved, the book would probably be shorter, because you don't want to just keep your reader waiting and waiting for nothing. Alright, next up we have action and adventure. How would I describe it? I would say Marvel. Yeah, I don't know, like, action and adventure obviously can be and has been done through written format, but it's best told in movie format. Any Marvel movie, apart from its sci-fi fantasy elements, is an action-adventure story. Same for Indiana Jones, Mission Impossible. I'd even call Transformers movies an action-adventure, at least the live-action ones, because the sci-fi aspect of aliens on Earth isn't explored enough to be integral to the plot. It's explosions, car chases, so much so that you don't really need a complicated plot, because there's so much going on, so your focus really isn't on the story, it's on the epic fighting. The general average for an action novel is between 70k and 100k. Kindlepreneur actually says the exact average is 96k. But with novels, again, you want to keep it short, especially with action novels, because it's just action, action, action. You don't want to drag it out. I can't do it. I tried to do an epic trumpet sound effect because I love sci-fi fantasy, and I've been waiting to get into it, because it's what I specialize in. Science fiction and fantasy are often grouped together because they are basically the same, just different settings. They run long, ranging from about 90,000 to 120,000 words. They usually require a lot more world building because they are in completely new and made-up places and have unfamiliar rules, terms, and elements than the average Earth. There are easy ways to make it simpler, but then it becomes more of a subgenre of sci-fi fantasy, like magical realism, fairy retellings, dystopians, and whatnot. Fantasy has magical creatures, elves, dwarves, sometimes a medieval vibe. Sci-fi is more aliens and robots, alternate and futuristic universes, and space. Lots of space. This is my preferred genre, like I said, to write for, but I do dabble in a few different genres, so don't judge me by my love of sci-fi fantasy, please. And yeah, that's pretty much all the genre. Wait. Please, help me. So, what about my book? You see, it's about a witch who solves murders, but she's trapped in a post-apocalyptic future and is in love with a ghost who haunts the ruins of a historical town from the 1700s. Well, first of all, wow, that's a lot, and it actually sounds pretty interesting, and I really want to see how you would do that. Secondly, what is the essential core or message of your work? What aspect of your character or setting will impact your reader the most? You can definitely combine genres, but I'd keep it down to 1 to 2 phrases as to properly sell it. Since it's taking place in the future and your main character is a witch, I'd say that the main genre is sci-fi fantasy. A secondary genre could either be mystery thriller or romance. It depends on which one is featured more or is more integral in your novel. So that's a quick overview of the genres. I'm currently writing a romantasy. How about you? Also, you might be tempted to follow trends in literature, but it's best to write what you want and continually read new novels to see what is selling and what you could incorporate into your novel. You don't want to be that person that looks at the shelf, sees Icebreaker's bestseller, decides to write another cheesy, sporty hockey love story, and just inflates the romance genre with those kinds of stories. I'm so sick of it. Guys, the market's overrun with them. Gosh, give me something different. Anything, please. Well, what about another vampire romance? No! Guys, thank you so much for all the love the Hollow Knight video got. And I saw your comments. I totally misspoke. It was the White Palace and not the Path of Pain. Also, I didn't realize that there was a DLC. I am never going to play it, ever, because I'm scared. But yeah, thank you so much for supporting me, and I hope you like these videos. What even is an outro? Is it necessary? Will I ever get one? Who knows? Bye!